Dear unexpected entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. Whether you have an idea, are starting out, or scaling up, this is a place for those who have already walked your path to share their top 3 pieces of advice to you, our unexpected entrepreneurs. Summit is here to champion unexpected entrepreneurs. Our unexpected entrepreneurs are the folk who are experts in their sector, have ambitious goals to innovate. Their goal wasn't always to start a business, but to fill a need and improve the sector they're passionate about. Today, we're joined by Jeffrey Fermin over in Miami. Say hello, Jeffrey.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, all good, thank you.
Do you want me to add some more to that intro? I feel like, oh, good.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction to who you are, what you're doing for work, and a bit of background.
Sounds great. So my name is Jeffrey Fermin. I've been in HR tech for over 11 years. I'm currently working for 2 different HR tech startups. One is All Voices, a whistleblower hotline / ethics hotline. Then I'm also the marketing director over at Work From Home, a remote people analytics company. So we're trying to pretty much gauge ENPS for companies that are either hybrid, remote, or even just completely on-site companies. But we're tailoring and really focused on improving the remote experience for the, future workplace. In terms of my background, 2011, I started a company called the Officevibe. They were one of the first pulse survey tools out in the market. And we use a lot of graphics, illustrations to kind of get the vibe or the feel of how employees were feeling with their managers and their department and their company as a whole. And we were able to provide rich dashboards and data sets for managers to see and understand what were some of the pain points in the office. So very familiar with the space. Have done a lot of consulting, both marketing consulting and HR tech consulting in the past couple of years, but now I'm back in my space and working for these two unique companies and doing a lot for them. And we're doing our best to make workplaces better across the entire globe. So
that's great. And Officevibe, obviously you were there kind of at the beginning, and it's a product that we use, and I know a lot of other companies are using, and rightfully so, because those kind of toolings are so important to kind of just take, like you said, that pulse of how the team are doing. And have you found that through this kind of work from home, the last kind of 3 years with the shift and everything, it's been a bit of an explosion in kind of HR tech, with kind of people going, we can't just have a HR office anymore. We need this to be, on it, because people are working from home and whatnot.
Yeah, I think there's been a nice rise in new positions within HR. Like there's now analytics specialists within HR departments, and there's people that manage HR tech stacks, where that was non-existent when we first started Officevibe. I guess I'll pivot a bit and start mentioning when the pandemic first started, we started seeing the world of work shift completely. Obviously, remote and hybrid work were it's commonplace, and people were forced to just learn and adapt how to remote work and got comfortable with it. But we started seeing that employees were comfortable with leaving their companies if it didn't meet their standards, and if it didn't really, meet their expectations to what it means to be a great workplace. And now we're seeing a rise in HR tech tools like an All Voices, like a Work From Home, and I won't discredit and forget about some of the other great companies like an Officevibe, Lattice, Fulltramp. They're doing a lot to improve the employee experience, which wasn't necessarily something that was top of mind, I would say 4 or 5 years ago. Sure, there were a lot of surveys, like Gallup was publishing different findings in employee engagement, but now there's a lot more, emphasis on making sure that companies are proactive with addressing employee experience needs because of the recent exodus, as well as just how things kind of trended in these past couple of years.
Exactly, and more so than ever, employees have choice of where they want to work. And I feel it's fairly common. It's well known that especially the younger generation, they want their values to align with their workplace values, and ultimately, if they're not happy, they're more than happy to move on. There's not that mentality that you need to find a job and stick at it for a lifetime anymore. People are happy to find the place that fits them, and knowing that from a HR management point of view of where your team are, and that is more vital than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, speaking on the younger generations, I feel like millennials definitely um, set the trend on how we wanted things to work out. I say we because I kind of fit into the millennial bucket, but how we wanted our workplace to look and feel like. And I feel like this next generation, they're going to make a push to make workplaces more inclusive, more
Mm,
welcoming, and really push on the employee experience component. So by the time these Gen X millennial people become directors, they are already well versed in fulfilling these employee experience needs, and know the language and know what to look for and know the solutions well enough to just be able to purchase them and put them within organizations. So yeah, I think the younger generations are going to do a great job of creating better workplaces. So yeah.
it's exciting. It's good. And so you're here to kind of share three things you've learned during your career. And yeah, we'd love to just jump into those. So Jeffrey, what's kind of the number one thing you wanna share with our unexpected entrepreneurs today?
As you start scaling up, I want to say that obviously I'm biased. I'm in HR tech. I obviously care a lot about people. But as you start scaling up and you start entering, I guess, growth mode, you always want to make sure that you're focusing on culture and people first.
Mm,
That could often get forgotten if you are, focusing on cranking out products and features left and right. But um, there's going to be a lot of downturns at any company, and year by year, there's always going to be something that causes a lot of distress. Obviously, this past year we experienced it with mass layoffs and the economic situation. There's going to be plenty of situations that are going to challenge you as a company. But what I would say is, if you have the right people and the right culture instilled and good values set in from day one, then people will tough out and do whatever they can to make sure that they uh, keep the company and the brand strong throughout the toughest of times. So I would say that's number one. Number two, it's going to
and
sound
on
very
on, on
cliche.
the
Oh, go ahead.
no, that's all good. On number one, I want to dig into that a little more. On number one, so in setting culture, I'm sure you could write a lot about this and talk about this for a long time. But if there's like, do you have something in mind which is kind of feels like a small thing but has a big impact that teams could implement? So the thing I'm thinking of is onboarding. The better your onboarding, the generally the smoother people understand culture and so on. Do you have an example of something which you would recommend to folk which they could implement or think about to try and set that culture?
Yeah, Pete, I immediately think of, you're using Officevibe right now. We're we're obviously at work from home calculating ENPS and making sure to have data points that help back employee engagement, as well as if your employees truly love the atmosphere. So I
Mm,
would say uh, maybe start focusing on analytics a little bit earlier, and specifically people analytics, and really finding out what are some of the needs of the people of your organization. Um, I would love to kind of shout out All Voices. They do a great job of that, always asking for feedback and employee experience surveys, which are written out. There's nothing wrong with that. I usually love the data points, but the CEO, Claire, does a great job of just putting, being very transparent and asking employees what are some of the pain points and
mm,
how could we do better, whether it's adding a new perk or adding some new benefit that hasn't been thought of. She's been doing this at a very early phase of the company, and everyone is pretty satisfied with their job because of it. She even says if you're
mm.
100% satisfied, just give us some feedback, and we'll definitely take it into account. So yeah, if a CEO like Claire or Pablo that works from home, he's focused on these things at a very early phase of the company. I can only imagine what's going to happen when they have, both have 100 employees and have to worry about different factors and different, I guess, different employees from different regions of the world too. So
nice, great, and that leads us nicely into number two.
Number two, specifically for entrepreneurs, I want to say that when you're pitching, it could be very difficult and disheartening, but you will get a yes eventually. If you have a product that is going to serve a great purpose and is going to do something valuable for, I won't say the world because I feel like that's very cliche, but it's going to do something valuable for the market. Eventually, you'll find an investor that gets it, or someone that's willing to join you in your venture and really understand the big purpose of your company. So I would say just always refine your pitch, always make sure that you're doing your best to just learn from your mistakes and make sure to have a great product out there that would hopefully serve a lot of users, or maybe not a lot, maybe serve a few users, but it could impact a market. So
yeah, that's great advice. And I think something that popped into my mind when you were saying that is having the right investor as well is as important as having an investor at all. If you get the wrong investor on board, that's gonna kill your product, and that's gonna essentially drive you to probably not enjoy your work. So you're right in that if you've got the right product and you're the right person to be delivering that, eventually the yes will come. But maybe you need to wait until the right person is kind of knocking on the door or ready to hear your pitch. Do you have any kind of thoughts on what people could do? So obviously there's the whole pitching process. In terms of what they're doing personally, do you have any thoughts on what folk can be doing to kind of help their options in terms of, like, do you still feel like networking is a worthwhile activity for folk to be doing when they're trying to launch something new, those sort of things?
Absolutely. And I think I'll take it one step further and say, even when you're not trying to launch something new, already start networking. I feel like here in Miami, we're doing a great job of creating a good ecosystem and a good network for entrepreneurs and investors now. There's different, networking events that you could go to every single week. I know a local company called Brex, or they're not really local, they're obviously global now. They host small dinners with founders and entrepreneurs, with investors that just, it's not really a business type of dinner. It's more just a, get to know you type dinner where you could meet with folks, ask a lot of questions, and add the person on LinkedIn and ask them questions if you have anything on there. There's nothing really transactional about it. It's definitely more intimate and really just gaining a new friend or gaining a new person that could help you get that future investor when you need it. I feel like going to events like that are valuable. I myself have gone to 2 in the past 3 weeks, which is a lower number than before. It's mostly because I'm not starting anything. I just want to make sure that I'm getting out there. But if you have a product or are looking to get a product out there, I say that you should be, or I believe that you should be going to at least 1-2 events per week, and getting your product, your brand out there, and even getting some notes on how to refine your pitch. So, for example, if you're talking to a VC, ask what kind of question, what kind of questions or should I be addressing in a pitch? Should I include XYZ information on there? And they'll tell you what they look for, what they don't, and more importantly, what their peers look at and what they don't. And you get the answers, you get a cheat sheet to your pitch deck in going to some of these events, and you could easily just refine things as you go. And when it comes time to hop on a Zoom call or go into a meeting, everything's as refined as can be.
And the more you share your story, the more you know it, and the more clarity comes, and the more confidence comes in telling it. One of the things when we're running events, we run we've run quite a few events, and I always open by, you've got to be sharing your story, not just your business card. No one wants you just to walk up to them, throw a business card at them, or just start randomly pitching at them. You've got to get to know people. And that's why I think those intimate dinners, and we're kind of getting involved in that over here too, is becoming almost more valuable than those big scale events, because they're times where you actually get a chance to sit down and talk to people. Some of my best networking has happened on a sports field, because nothing says nice to meet you than tackling them or scoring a goal against them. And it's just a different environment than walking up to someone in an expo hall where it can be quite cold. So those new and more interesting ways of networking are definitely, in my opinion, invaluable, but also super productive when it comes to expanding your network. And you're not looking just to expand your network for the sake of it. You're looking to meet people who you can give value to and they can give value back. But it's got to be based on relationship, not just cold transactional, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right when you said that, I thought about like intentional conversations, making sure that the relationships and the conversations that you create actually have some kind of meaning versus, I'll use an example. When you, not even a conference, when people do the spray and pray, like LinkedIn messages that you could tell are completely automated, it doesn't seem sincere. Or it doesn't seem like they really vetted you out. It's just like, all right, well, there's another marketing automation service that just is telling me that I'm a good fit for this person. No, when you go out to some of these events, you meet the people that are genuinely interested in not just you, but maybe your team, and maybe want to just change your life, so to speak. But yeah, I really believe that networking is still very essential, especially if you're just getting started, and even if you're in a position where you're in between ideas or in between products. Definitely a good way to get yourself out there, and yeah, I'd recommend it.
Great.
10 times out of 10.
Fab. Let's and then sliding on to your third and final kind of lesson that you want to share, Jeffrey.
I feel like I should throw in something negative. By that I mean maybe a lesson that I've learned throughout the years. Maybe not starting businesses with friends, right, or friends or family members. That means I'm sure there's a lot of unique cases where you could find like a family-owned business that really scaled up and did well. But I think the better way of phrasing it is make sure that you make the smart choice when selecting your co-founders, when selecting future team members, and make sure that people that are going to be working with you are truly there for the right reasons. Yeah, I just always feel like that's a tough lesson to be learned when you are hiring early on and you want to get the right team around you. You obviously want to build people or build a network of people that you trust around you, but at the same time, the people that are closest to you might not be the most talented. And this is no knock on anyone that I've worked with before, but I'm saying the ones that they might not be the best for the position. Sure, there's a lot of cases of like nepotism, favoritism out there, but yeah, I think it's best if you just hire the right, most talented people that are just in your area or now with remote work out in the world, and make sure you do a great job of hiring the right people and the right fit, and make sure that you instill a good culture from those early hires.
For sure. And I always feel like, and this goes with maybe more so with kind of co-founders and management team, kind of more senior positions, but across the team, you've got to have those awkward conversations early, right? So if you're thinking of maybe going into business with a family member or somebody you've got to start having the conversations before they happen around things like, well, what happens if we disagree? What happens if this happens? Because if you can have those conversations earlier, it's almost not a shock when you get over the honeymoon periods that there will be things that will grind, you'll bump up against. And if you've already started those conversations, you've already kind of laid the path for healthy communication, not just a shock to the system when the honeymoon's over.
Exactly. And the last thing you want to have is very awkward holidays where you're discussing work and some of the issues there, and there's just still maybe a lot of conflict at the office that is being brought into home. So that's never a good thing. I would say that if you are going to hire a friend, a family member, someone that's kind of in your extended network, make sure that they're a great fit. Make sure that they're there for the right reasons and truly believe in the mission of the company. Going back to the first point that I was trying to make, like you want to instill a good culture early on and make sure that you are accessing new networks with any potential hires that are going to be advocates for your company, because employee advocacy is probably more important now more than ever. And I say that because of the just how social we've become in terms of pushing ourselves out there on the internet. I can't think of any companies off the top of my mind, but I would say that you see a lot of people endorsing or really advocating for their companies on a LinkedIn, on a Twitter, on a TikTok, just because they really love the fact that they do some things right, whether it is offering a remote work stipend, offering work-life balance benefits like unlimited PTO that is enforced. By that I mean they at least have to kind of push out a 14-day PTO policy. Like I've seen unique offerings with unlimited PTO, so I wanted to give a quick example there. But yeah, a strong culture is going to be one of the things that help you really grow out. And starting with the core employees, you're going to need those advocates to eventually branch out and bring you some more people on there. So that said, make sure not to have any favoritism or nepotism early on. Hire the right folks, and if you are going to bring in family members or friends, make sure that they're right for the job and really going to do great things.
So good, so good. Jeffrey, can we just summarize those 3 points again? So the first point, go through point 1, 2, and 3, just kind of the titles, and then we'll kind of close things up.
Sure thing. The first point was to, I forgot already, to instill a strong culture and make sure that you are instilling things like people analytics early on. The second one would be to make sure that when you're starting a company, make sure that you have the right investors set in the company. And the third one is make sure to make the right hires early on and bring in the right team.
It's great. Thank you, Jeffrey. So I'm sure there's folk who would love to reach out, maybe ask a couple of questions, or just generally follow along with what you're up to down in Miami. So where can people kind of find you online? Where's the best place to find you?
Sure thing. So Instagram and TikTok, I've kind of rebranded into an HR tech person. So it's Fermin Talks Work, Fermin Talks Work. And on Twitter is where I have a pretty decent following. I can't change the handle though. I am verified, so unfortunately, if I change it, it'll go away. But it's Jeff Fermin, JEFFFERMIN. So feel free to reach out to me in any of those outlets. I'm pretty quick to respond, and more than willing to give some advice and tips.
And you're going to be at Web Summit Conference in Lisbon in November, so the people can also grab you for a coffee then.
Yeah, I'll be sure to reach out to you then. And I've never been to Lisbon, so I'm excited. I'm sure we could do stuff outside. If you want, you can meet with co-founders of Work From Homey, and we could go out and grab a coffee or grab a beer if you're for it. So
sounds good. Well, I appreciate your time, Jeffrey.
Else, by the way, if anyone else wants to do it.
That's amazing. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the podcast, and we will call it there. So look forward to having our listeners along for the next podcast, and we'll see you next week.